It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. And you can find me at, I'm the president of Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. You can find a link to my work at emailrevealer.com. You can go there and get an autographed copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator, at emailrevealer.com. I want to welcome our new sponsor, CartKing.com. Have you ever thought about opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Perhaps your current business wants to add multiple points of sale locations across the country quickly. Maybe the facility you manage, like a office building or a hospital or a factory, wants to kickstart revenue by adding a coffee, food, or retail service. Well, CartKing.com can be the answer to your needs. CartKing.com is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile retail coffee and food carts and kiosks that money can buy. For 20 years, CartKing.com has been working with clients and corporations across America to provide indoor and outdoor carts and kiosks for any application, from large, heated, secure outdoor retail or food kiosks to smaller mobile coffee station carts and kiosks. CartKing.com designs and builds them all. Carts are fun, kiosks are fun, and so are the dozens of designs on the website. So check out today at CartKing.com, www.cart-king.com, or just give them a call at 877-986-7771, CartKing.com. Okay, we have today a returning guest coming back to our show. One of our most popular guests, as a matter of fact, Nathan Forrest Winters. And he was the young boy who was in that movie, Clown House. And unfortunately, had a very traumatizing youth. We have Nathan, he's got a movie coming out now called Babysitter. We're going to be talking about that as well. But Nathan Forrest Winters, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Ed.
Hey, how you been, man? Remind the audience, who is Nathan Forrest Winters?
Well, as a child, I was a actor and starred in the movie, the commercial pictures produced film called Clown House, which is written and directed by Victor Silva, who's known for Powder and the Jeepers Creepers franchise, and also as being the man that molested me for 6 years of my childhood.
And I know, but now you're like a musician and stuff like that too, as well.
Yeah. I've been playing music for the better half of my life, and that's kind of been my passion. Losing my taste for acting at such an early age.
Have you done anything?
Say again?
Yeah, have you done anything since the Clown House?
No. Other than the film we've got coming up here, it's finished now. It's the Babysitter. It's a documentary, and it's basically a catalog experience with Mr. Silva and beyond. Basically, it's giving any victims out there a look at that there is an open door to healing in the wake of abuse. And for anyone that's never experienced any abuse, it's like a direct look right into what that can do to someone and how difficult it is to overcome abuse like that.
Yeah, we did.
I've just been busy, advocating and just trying to get this together, trying to raise awareness and make people aware of what this is about and how real this is and how big of an issue it is. And so that's really been my goal for the better part of my life.
Yeah, you were telling me before the show that you have a new campaign called Taking Action, Breaking Silence. What's the whole concept behind that? What's going on with that?
Well, basically, the breaking silence part is really comes down to the fact that it's like this dirty secret, that these children and adults into adulthood feel like they're made to keep this dirty secret, and that the biggest part is breaking that silence. And And basically, it's like the metaphor I've used for it before, maybe even on our last show together was, it's like this elephant's been in the room the whole time, and we as a culture have been ignoring it for a long, long, long time. So taking action and breaking silence is basically me coming forward and saying, okay, look, Mr. Elephant, it's time to get up and come out to the center of the room where everybody can see you and talk and discuss and find a solution. Like no more pretending you're not there. And so that's really what it comes down to is taking action to break the silence, to take it away and make it okay and safe for other victims to come forward.
Yeah, I think more than ever before, we are shining a light on this issue, but what do you think? Do you think that still that the survivors of the kind of assault are still stigmatized and feel shame? And does that still go on?
Absolutely. Especially for men that were abused by men. It's a huge stigma. It's really difficult for men to talk about. It's difficult for people to hear about. Like, that was kind of another really, I was very adamant. Connor Frazier and I, he's the director. He's a 21-year-old guy that's just brilliant. I'm really happy to be working with him on this project. And he gave it that aspect because he's not a victim. So, for him, it was a challenge, but it really it's wanted everyone to know that's okay to talk about this. That in fact, it's more than okay. It's crucial that we talk about this. It's crucial that it's something that is not does not have a blind eye or a deaf ear turned to it. And that's kind of been the problem for so many years. And so many victims have come forward just to have like their guardian or parent or whatever kind of just sweep it under the rug and not want to talk about it because it's embarrassing because and that's really what I'm trying to change with this is to bring it back out into the forefront, into the light, so everybody can understand how we all understand how difficult it is to discuss and to talk about and to hear about. But that doesn't mean that it's going to go away by doing that. That's really my point is perpetuating the issue to not helping to find a solution.
Why don't you remind the audience your story of what happened to you and how you were a child, you got in contact with Silva character, and how,
right.
Yeah.
So Silva worked at a daycare center when I was introduced to him. And as long as I ever knew him, which was from around 6 to about a month, 3 weeks before my 12th birthday, was the duration of time that I knew him. Every job he had was involved with, working with children, the Boys and Girls Club or at, or daycare centers. And that's where he was working when he was introduced to my mother because of a film he was putting together himself. Back then it was called Goblin's Gold, and he needed help with props. And so one of my mom's, dear friends from high school, her daughter went to that daycare center, and that's how, Victor was introduced to my mom. And so she went home and made this prop, of this goblin's head for Victor. And because of her involvement, I was able to go to this, set and see the film. And that's how I was introduced to Victor. So, he's a textbook pedophile in the sense that he spent a lot of time grooming me and my parents. The better part of the first year of our acquaintance, he spent grooming, my family in order to gain that love and trust, because that's really the pedophile's biggest tool is the trust and the love of the children, but the family as well. Parents aren't going to just send their kids off with some guy, you know what I mean? So he spent the calculated time to really get my parents on board and think he was a great guy, and it was wonderful for me, and so that's kind of where the abuse was led into by that grooming process.
The last time the last time I had you on the show, before I talked to you, and even almost universally, everybody who listened to that show, before they listened to the show, they assumed that you met this guy on the set, that you were just a child actor and you met him on the set. No one knew that he had actually been working on you years before that movie.
Yeah, absolutely. That's honestly that's a very common misconception with my case, and probably a lot, to be honest. But that's definitely what anyone that is, working to keep his persona, his public image, looking as clean as it possibly can be, with that kind of a conviction on his record, to bury that part of the story and to make sure that, even, what's his name? Michael Eisner, I think, the one of the big guys down there at Disney, was quoted back in '95 or '96 when Powder came out. He was quoted saying that it was a one-time inappropriate touching incident between a man and a consenting minor. Were the words they used, the exact words, consenting minor. Now, the picture that paints for someone who's listening or reading is that this is like a 16 or 17-year-old kid that agreed and was consenting to do this with this grown man, and so it really threw everyone down the wrong path as far as the truth behind the abuse, which was, when he was arrested, I was 11 years old, and the abuse had been going on for nearly, 5.5 years at that point. If you include the grooming process, we're talking almost 6 years. So half my life at that point, he had been, abusing me.
And it started when you were 6 years old.
Yeah, that's when I met him.
Right, and obviously no 6-year-old is consenting to any kind of sexual activity. It's the last thing on their mind. They're playing with mud in the street.
I wouldn't consider a 6-year-old or even an 11-year-old a consenting minor.
Right.
That's a child. Again, the words they've used were very very cleverly chosen. Consenting minor. It paints a totally different picture in someone's mind when they hear or read those words. Again, it brings you to the place where you're thinking like 16, 17-year-old, like statutory rape kind of thing,
Right, and that it's a one-time thing, and not that he has this history of working in preschools and like you said, and all this kind of other predatory locations where people go seek employment.
Right, absolutely. It's done misdirection. It's misleading. It's a way for them to, again, paint him as something that he's not. It's done to give people the impression that he is not a predator of small children, which he absolutely is. So that's my biggest thing, been to blow the whistle, to break the silence and to stop this vicious cycle that they continue to feed.
So when I had that impression that you were a child actor that ran into this guy on the set, that's not by accident. That this was something that was designed by a what do you call it? A crisis team, right? A damage control team to try and paint the best picture on this and try and distort the facts.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay.
They always have. They have since his arrest. I mean, honestly, as soon as he was arrested, he was bailed out. He had, a very high-priced lawyer, and I was sued for, my family was sued for $5 million for breach of contract or something.
Before we get into all that, why don't you describe exactly what this guy did to you, how he groomed you along, and he used to invite you over for sleepovers and stuff?
Right. It started out fairly innocently, if you don't mind that word, but for lack of better terms, it started out where it was like babysitting me for a couple hours kind of thing that turned into, because I had a little brother that was an infant at the time, and so my parents' hands were full. And here's this guy that's like super good with kids, and he works at daycare centers, and he's a filmmaker, and he was like, I was so enamored with him because at that age, if you'd asked me at 5 what I wanted to be when I grew up, my answer would be, famous and a dad. Those are the two things that I wanted to be as a kid. And so here comes this guy that, independent filmmaker, and he knows all about movies and directors and actors and like the whole thing, So for me, it was just like, he was God. He was awesome. I didn't really have the best relationship at home with my stepdad. And so that's kind of like made me an easy mark, an easy target for a predator like Victor Silva. because they look for children that are already like have that victim mentality and are easily manipulated and persuaded. And so that's kind of how it started. It was, him developing my love and trust. And then, the first real time that there was ever any touching or any kind of abuse like that was at his apartment. I think it was probably either right before or right after my 7th birthday. And we were watching a Disney movie, and he asked me if I wanted to dress like Mowgli, who's the main character in Jungle Book, and he wears a loincloth throughout the entire cartoon. So, Victor offered to make me a loincloth out of 2 bandanas, and as he was tying them, had me undressed, of course, and as he was tying them, he started fondling me. And so, from there, the abuse just progressed to, maybe if you were to look him up on to find out what his charges are, he has 4 charges that he's convicted of, including oral copulation on a minor or a child under 14, oral sodomy on a minor under 14, filming this with a child under 14. So, that just gives you an idea of what it progressed to. And that didn't take long, actually, before it progressed to that. And, he was originally arrested on 11 counts, and they made a plea bargain. My lawyer and his lawyer drew up a plea bargain that dropped the 7 most severe charges. So he's only convicted of the 4 least severe charges, which were the ones that I just named.
Do you think one of the reasons why your parents fell for this is because they viewed him as a big Hollywood celebrity, a star? Did they have stars in the rest?
Even close to that yet. He was still making movies in his backyard at that point. Okay. It wasn't until he had written a script called Something in the Basement, which was I think 28-minute short film. And I remember begging him to let me audition for it. We were at his house hanging out one day, and he had a bunch of auditions that day. So other little boys were coming over and auditioning, and I kept begging him, and he's like, I don't want you to get your feelings hurt if, I don't want to use you, so I don't want to, let you audition. And I talked him into it, and out of the other 20 boys that auditioned, I won the part. So I got the starring role in Something in the Basement, which also featured Brian McHugh, who is the middle-aged brother in Clown House. It's basically Clown House's 3 brothers. It's me, Brian McHugh is like the 13-year-old middle brother, and then Sam Rockwell, who was 18 at the time, played the oldest brother in Clown House. So Something in the Basement was entered into, I think, the Sony Film Festival in San Francisco, and won first place for its category, its genre. And on that panel of judges was Francis Ford Coppola. And Coppola fell in love with the short film and offered Victor a full-length feature. And so that's how Clown House came to be. Is after this offer from Coppola, Victor went home and wrote Clown House specifically with me in the starring role and Brian McHugh as the middle brother. So he really didn't have any kind of Hollywood ties or anything until, after he was released from treatment. After his conviction is when I think he had a movie deal waiting for him on the table when he got out of treatment, 15 or 18 months after his arrest.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, with Nathan Forrest Winters, it's a good time to take a commercial break. Well, with Nathan Forrest Winters, you can find his website at nathanforrestwinters.com. And there's a link there, too, to the trailer for the movie called The Babysitter that just completed. Also, too, he's got this awareness campaign called Taking Action, Breaking Silence. And there's a GoFundMe for that, too. GoFundMe.com, Taking Action, Breaking Silence, where you can find that. Nathan Forrest Winters, he was the star of the movie Clown House. And we're going to be hearing this. And now a word from our sponsors.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99. Remember, all these shows on Awake are brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You can go to emailrevealer.com and get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You also do all the kind of different services for you. Online dating service investigations called an online infidelity investigation. And that's where you give us your husband or your boyfriend, your girlfriend's email address, and we trace it back to their online dating websites. And we return a list of all the dating sites that email is registered to. We can expand on that investigation and trace it back to porn sites, escort service sites, swinger sites, gambling websites, and even prescription drug websites, and all kinds of digital forensics, computer and cell phone digital forensics, where we can recover deleted content from an email or a hard drive and produce a report for you that you can use in court. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can contact me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
Subhash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you know you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subhash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find a link to Subhash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also AwakeRadio.us. Check out CartKing.com, 877-986-7771. Have you ever thought about opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Perhaps your current business wants to add multiple point-of-sale locations across the country quickly. Maybe the facility you manage could kickstart revenue by adding coffee, food, or retail services, like let's say you own an office building or a warehouse. Put one of these carts there in the lobby. Well, CartKing.com can be the answer to your needs. CartKing.com is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile retail coffee and food carts and kiosks money can buy. For 20 years, CartKing.com has been working with clients and corporations across America to provide indoor and outdoor carts and kiosks for any application. From large, heated, and secure outdoor retail or food kiosks to smaller, more mobile coffee kiosks or coffee stations, coffee carts, CartKing.com designs and builds them all. Carts and kiosks are fun, and so are the dozens of designs on the website, CartKing.com. Please visit today at CartKing.com or just call them at 877-986-7771. Tell them Ed Opperman sent you and you get a good deal. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. We're here today with Nathan Forrest Winters, and he's got a website called NathanForrestWinters.com. He's got a new campaign called Taking Action. What's that? Taking Action, Breaking Silence? Is that what it is? Taking Action, Breaking Silence. All right. And there's a called TABS, is the acronym TABS. And there's a GoFundMe for that. GoFundMe/Taking Action, Breaking Silence. And the movie, The Babysitter, has just been completed. When will the Babysitter be released?
Right now, we've been entering into film festivals. I believe we've already been accepted into a couple of them. And so we're really, there's stipulations with film festivals. Like, we can't have it distributed or being screened anywhere in order to be eligible to enter. So we kind of had to put the premiere date back a little bit. Not exactly 100% sure. We would push for the end of summer. But at this point, in order to be accepted into film festivals, we can't necessarily do that. So it's something that, you know, Connor and I, this is our first movie. It's totally done independently, you know, and so it's kind of a new ball game for us. We're not 100% sure exactly how to go about it and still be eligible for film festivals. So at this point, it's, you know, it's to be announced, basically.
Gotcha. And I'll be talking to Connor Fraser later on. I'll be interviewing him as well. But just to recap the story, at 6 years old, young Nathan Forrest Winters was, he and his family were targeted and groomed by someone who seems to have a pattern of lifelong pedophilia and daycare centers, that kind of work, babysitting kind of work, targeted him and his family, and began molesting Nathan at 6 years old. Got him into a movie called Something in the Basement. Francis Ford Coppola saw that movie, then decided to fund the film, what's that thing called, Clown House. Nathan was chosen to star in that film. And then, Nathan, it was during that film, the filming of that movie, that Victor Silva was arrested. How did that come about?
Well, basically, my mom had been like really concerned for a while and had been asking me. And, you know, Victor never necessarily threatened to hurt my family or to do anything like that. His threats were very subtle and calculated. And, like, if I was to tell my parents, I wouldn't be allowed to see him anymore, and I wouldn't be able to act anymore. So his threat was to take away the person at that point in my life that, you know, because being a victim of that at such an early age, it killed all of the kind of like affection that a normal child would want and receive from his parents. And, you know, it made it so any kind of physical touching or anything like that was weird and awkward. And so at that point, what it does is it singles the perpetrator out in the child's life to where that's the only person the child feel like they can trust. And so he was basically threatening for me to lose, at that point, the only person I felt comfortable with and I, you know, loved so dearly, as well as taking away my dreams of being an actor. So, of course, when my mom would confront me or ask me if, you know, anything was going on or anything I needed, you know, she should know about, I would deny, because I didn't want to lose those two things. During the filming of Clown House, several crew members had come up to my mom and said something is not right. You know, the interaction between Nathan and Victor it's wrong, which confirmed all of my mom's fears. And eventually, because we shot the film in 30 days, and it was right after we wrapped shooting that my mom was able to finally, you know, I guess I came to her and I told her I had a secret that I wanted to tell her. And that's how she finally got it out of me.
Yeah, that must have been a really difficult decision for you to make, to confess this to your mother. What did you think would be the outcome? You think you would just tell her and that it would end there, or did you think the police would get involved? What were you thinking?
No, I didn't. I had no idea. Honestly, I had no idea the repercussions or how severe this is. Like, I was like a kid, and to me, that was half my life.
Right.
You know, was this. So to me, it was. Even though, because you learn to completely ignore the red flags and the gut instincts through the grooming process, you know, and so I had become kind of numb to those, to where, you know, it wasn't necessarily a matter of listening to my body telling me that this was wrong. It was more like I ignored that in order to make Victor happy, right? And so I really had no idea. I mean, that was half of my life. I'd been told in school, and, you know, of course, but we're talking early mid 80s here. It wasn't nearly as big of a talked about issue at schools or anywhere where, you know, like the whole stranger danger and like that whole, you know, thing that took place later on was not quite apparent or even, you know, anything that was offered through schools or anything at that point. So it was like literally up to all the parents to, inform their kids not to let an adult touch them in the wrong way, or, so it's not that my parents didn't provide that information. It's just, it becomes such a normal thing that it didn't click.
Yeah, sure. So, this guy was the center of your world. He was in your head so much that there's no way you weren't thinking straight. Now,
right.
Your mother went to the police right away?
I tried to protect him.
Right.
I ended up having to go because I never took the stand. It wasn't necessary because he confessed to everything when he was originally arrested. And then once his lawyer got involved, then it was like backtrack. You've said too much kind of thing. So, but they caught him completely unaware. It was a sting operation when they got him. And so, even to the point where when I went to testify in the board of, it's downtown San Francisco in this huge tall skyscraper and big, huge boardroom with big windows and a big table and a bunch of legal people. And I'm like 12 years old, 11 years old, and had to go and give my testimony. And even in that testimony, I was really trying to protect Victor because, I didn't understand how much trouble he was about to be in. And I started to get an idea of how much trouble he was going to be in. And I didn't want to lose him. Again, I didn't want to lose, this person that I had grown to love and trust above all else, above my parents even. And I didn't want to lose my chance of being an actor. So I really, I tried to protect him and, held back quite a bit in my testimony, which I'm sure is, a fairly common issue with a victim, It was like a Stockholm syndrome kind of thing,
Yeah. Yeah, the abuse goes so much further than just the physical contact. It's the whole mental consuming the child as well.
A pedophile is a very different beast or monster than, say, a child rapist or a rapist. Or someone who commits, sexual assault in a more violent way. This is done by acquiring the child's trust and love, and that's what really, messes people up. And long-term,
Sure.
It's the long-term damage that is really, that can really mess somebody up for the rest of their lives. It's a lot to overcome. I've had to work very hard my whole life since to overcome it. I went through 6 years of therapy. From 12 to 18, I went to therapy. And that was a huge help because what that taught me was how to talk about it and how to put it out on the table and not have this shame that comes along with, being a boy that's having sexual relations with a man, especially someone like, me, who I've always known I was, heterosexual. I've always liked girls. And so, that's where the shame thing comes in with boys being molested by men is the homosexual thing and the stigma that creates in our society, created by our society. So it's really a lot to overcome. And so that's been my biggest goal is to be a living example of healing in the wake of this abuse. That this is what it takes. If you want to know how to get over this and overcome it, this is what worked for me. And this is what I found has been, the best way to overcome this and to be a survivor and to be a voice for those that haven't found theirs yet. And that's really, been my biggest goal since I was 12.
Now, when your story started becoming public, did other kids come forward with any of the other kids who came forward and accused of Silva?
No. In fact, there was, allegations and everyone had a feeling about the middle brother, Brian McHugh, but his family never came forward. I've never heard from him since, in fact. So, but I mean, when they caught him, he was leaving, because the film was all shot with actually the same cameras that were used by Lucas in American Graffiti. So there's these 70s, film cameras that were just so loud that every single bit of sound for Clown House had to be dubbed over because the cameras were so loud. So it was a 2-month process. 30 days we shot it, and then the next 30 days were spent doing all the overdubs. So after Victor was arrested and I was blackballed and considered this little tattletale that ruined everything for everyone, I still had to go to Coppola's property every single day for a month and do all the overdubbing while Victor's sitting in jail. So that was, so quite an experience.
Just so this is clear, when Victor Silva is arrested and sitting in jail for molesting a little boy from 6 years old to 11 years old, he wasn't fired. He wasn't, Coppola didn't come out and say, we disassociate ourselves 100% with Victor Silva. We want nothing to do with him. Instead, what happened instead?
Instead, I was told that I would never work in the industry again. Victor's lawyers were paid for by Coppola. And again, he had a movie deal waiting for him, on the table when he got out of his treatment after, he was convicted of 4 counts and sentenced to 3 years, of which he served less than half, is my understanding. It's about 15 months, I think, in a treatment center in Napa Valley. So he's been coddled by Coppola. Coppola has actually been the one to produce, I'd say 80% of all of his films since have been produced by either American Zoetrope or Commercial Pictures, which is Coppola's company, his production company.
And somehow you wound up being sued for $5 million?
Coppola filed a $5 million lawsuit against my family for breach of contract with Clown House. To be honest, I don't really speak that language very well. So, and my auntie, my mom's sister, was the one that basically handled anything that had to do with the legalities of that case, because she was not so directly involved as my mother to where she could detach herself enough from it to be able to handle it on a professional level. And so I'm not exactly sure what the breach of contract was, but that's what we were being sued for, was a breach of contract for $5 million.
Now you mentioned too. Yeah, wonderful. That is true though. When you're in the middle of litigation like this and you're personally involved in it, you have to bring in some professionals or dispassionate people, because otherwise it just becomes so overwhelming and you don't even want to open up the file and take a look at it. It could destroy your life. But now you mentioned too that you...
It was really bad, Ed. It was really bad. They crucified me. Like my local newspaper, the Contra Costa Times, printed my name 7 times, my full name, Nathan Forrest Winter, 7 times in a very short article after Victor was arrested. So it was, there's this little blue-collar family, with his little 11-year-old victim, and have all these huge people with all their big money against us. It was really tough.
Now, also, too, you mentioned that you went to therapy for 10 years, 8 years. Who paid for that? Did you get any kind of settlement for any of this to getting compensation?
Yes, I did. I did get a small settlement. I'm not exactly sure how much. It was just, I think it barely was over $100,000, which paid for my therapy for 6 years and left a little chunk in an annuity for me when I turned 30.
Now, with that settlement, any kind of agreement where you weren't allowed to make a movie like Babysitter?
No.
Can you tell us about Babysitter? It's the documentary, right?
Yeah. So the Babysitter, I've had countless offers over the years, especially when Powder came out back in 95 or 96. Which of course was produced by, I think, Caravan, which is a subsidiary of Disney, which was a huge powder keg in the media and the news that the subsidiary of Disney hired a convicted child molester to do that movie. So during that time, I was in my early 20s. I was being offered, book deals, TV movie of the week, like you name it. I was being offered, right and left. And I remained completely diligent. I did not accept 1 cent because, of course, the opposition, the people out there saying I was doing it for all the wrong reasons, that would have made them right for me to accept anything. So this whole time I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for the right person to come along with the right things to say and the right answers to my questions. to work with to expose this on the level that it needs to be. And Connor Frazier was that guy. Last summer, I think it was end of May or early June last year, he got a hold of me on Facebook and said, that he'd been a fan of Victor's, and then uncovered this controversy behind, and was really, in a lot of ways bummed out because he's always appreciated Victor's capabilities to make things happen with like no budget kind of thing. And so, he was conflicted at first. And then once we started to talk and he started to get a better idea of what happened and who I was, it was like no question for him, and he was like, well, I don't want any affiliation with Hollywood. I want to do this completely independently. And, I just want to help you tell your story because I believe that it needs to be told. And coming from a 20-year-old kid that had never been a victim, those were the things that I was looking for, that I've been waiting for. So I was really excited right away. And it's been, it's been hell. It's been a really tough process to get this done without any backing or funding or, we did a GoFundMe campaign last year, and that's really, and my thanks to everyone that contributed and helped, because that's really what made it possible to do the film was people out there supporting what I was doing and making a contribution. And so we ended up flying to Virginia, and we sat in a hotel room for 2 weeks, him and I, and, it's not going to be any kind of conventional documentary in any shape or form. This is something that is brand new, and it's not something that has been done yet, in the sense that it pushes the envelope and breaks the mold for documentary. There's no scenes where I'm sitting in a chair, pulled-up chair, next to a lamp with someone behind camera, asking questions. There's none of that. It's basically... it's me telling the story and recalling these memories on camera is what it is. Mm. And Connor's vision for that, his whole purpose for getting me out to Virginia and holding me up. I mean, we literally went out to dinner twice. His grandparents took us out once, and then I had a friend from North Carolina come over and take us out to dinner. But other than that, we're eating, Sonic Burger across the street and Dunkin' Donuts every day, sitting in this hotel room for 2 weeks to do this. And his whole purpose behind that was to put me in this vulnerable place where I was unfamiliar, where I didn't know anyone. And it really worked. I mean, the film, I'm a very hardcore perfectionist with any kind of my craft, my music, my artwork, anything that I do, I'm very perfectionist. And so for me to say this is a lot. And I don't think we could have done a better job at all. So I'm really proud of it, in fact.
Okay, and again, this is a good time to take a commercial break. We're with Nathan Forrest Winters, NathanForrestWinters.com. You can see a trailer of this film, The Babysitter. Also, too, we're going to be talking to Connor Frazier, too, the filmmaker behind this. We're going to be talking to him soon as well, so keep an eye out for that show. And also, to go back and find the show we did with Nathan Forrest Winters, the 2-hour show I did with him, where we really get into specific, really gritty details of this entire story. This show is basically just to make people aware of the show, the movie coming out shortly. Also, keep an eye out, too, for his GoFundMe, Taking Action, Breaking Silence. And if anybody wants to contact Nathan or the filmmaker, it's thebabysitterdocumentary@gmail.com. We'll be right back with more of Nathan Forrest Winter. And now a word from our sponsors.
Hey, you. Podcast listener, this is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. Take the blue pill. You wake up in your bed and go back to listening to mundane podcasts that won't challenge your religious beliefs and your so-called truths about reality, the universe, and consciousness. Take the red pill. Subscribe to the Event Horizon podcast, hosted by Mark Anthony Peterson, and he will show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Event Horizon takes a walk into the paranormal with a splash of conspiracy. It's the podcast that would be born if David Icke and the X-Files had a baby. Subscribe to the Event Horizon podcast by Mark Anthony Peterson on Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Stitcher, or any of your other favorite podcast platforms. Remember, all we are offering is the truth, nothing more.
Have you ever thought about opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Maybe add new point-of-sale locations across the country quickly, or bring in revenue by adding coffee, food, or retail services to your office building, warehouse, or lobby? CartKing.com is the answer to your needs. CartKing.com is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile retail, coffee, food carts, and kiosks that money can buy. For 20 years, CartKing.com has been working with clients across America to provide indoor and outdoor carts and kiosks for any application. That's www.cart-king.com. Give them a call at 877-986-7771. Tell them Ed Opperman sent you. So you go to the website, CartKing.com, you check out their different designs and models. You pick out which design applies to your business. They'll custom design it for you, custom build it for you, and ship it worldwide. CartKing.com. PureSoapFlakes.com. 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with pure soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Keep it clean, folks. Pure Soap Flake Company products are kind to living creatures and sensitive skin, safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. Order today at puresoapflakes.com, greenhome.com, amazon.com, or give them a call, 218-568-2525, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Welcome back to the Opperman Report. We're talking today with Nathan Forrest Winters. He's got a new film just completed called The Babysitter. You can find it's called a trailer at nathanforrestwinters.com. Also, too, keep an eye out for his GoFundMe. It's a campaign he's got to Taking Action, Breaking Silence, and there's a GoFundMe for that, Taking Action, Breaking Silence. A couple of questions for you real quick. In your film, The Babysitter, do you cover any other high-profile cases of children being victimized in Hollywood? Or it's just your story?
It's just my story. And the reason that, Ed, is basically because that's the one that I know.
Right.
It's the one that I have actual physical evidence and proof of it occurring. And for me personally, at this point, it's better to stick to what I know and what I can prove. That way there's no questions of, am I slandering or someone or, So that's really the main reason. And because, again, there's been so much misleading done by, Victor and the people that work with him and for him, that it needed to be told in its purest, rawest form and to stick to that.
How about,
that's really, go ahead.
So it says you completed the film. Has there been any attempts to silence the film or buy you off or anything like that?
No, nothing directly, not at all.
Yes.
I don't know where they, I know Victor knows about it. I do know that. I know that he knows that I've made this film. But there's really been no contact from that side of things trying to persuade me or buy me. I mean, in all truth, Hollywood knows they can't buy it. They've tried. They've tried a lot of times. Again, I waited most of my life for the right person to come along, and that so they've tried to buy me, and it's not going to happen.
But they have they have distribution companies that can buy the rights to the film and then bury it. Like that kind of stuff happens quite a bit. Yeah.
No, we've had a couple offers, and Connor and I just decided to go independently, which is one of the main things we're running this GoFundMe campaign for, is to help us, because a lot of times with a lot of these film festivals, you have to pay an entry fee, or there's film conventions that we would need to travel to in order to do Q&As after the screening. And so that's, and we're building toward my mission. The goal is to become a 501c3, which would be We Are Their Voice. There is a wearetheirvoice.com, or not .com, that's included with the NathanForrestWinters.com, but there is, an email for that portion of it, and to get this off the ground so we can become this foundation for victims and survivors, to band together, because my mission is to really unite all of us, because we're not alone. And we don't need to be afraid. We need to work together to bring this out into the open. And the only way to do that is to have someone who's not afraid of Hollywood, who's not afraid of, because there were threats. There was people watching our house when we were going through that $5 million lawsuit and the trial with Victor. There was definitely weird stuff going on in that regard. There's threats being made to my family. So that part of it is very real. It's just, I think that they've realized after this time that, for one, they're not going to shut me up, and for two, they can't buy me. So, so far we haven't had any. We've had only a couple offers as far as distribution, and again, we decided to go independently because that's one for us to ensure that this is going to go. We should be done. But yeah, really, that we haven't had any issues with that so far, and okay. I just hope that we don't.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, and the purpose of the
prepare for the worst,
Yeah, right. The purpose of the GoFundMe, Taking Action, Breaking Silence, is to raise funds. You need travel expenses. You need the entry fees, like you said, for the film, and also your plan is to start a foundation, a 501c3. It's actually for education purposes, or to help other kids that are coming up in this process.
In my big picture mind, because I'm a very big picture kind of guy, I see, the whole spectrum of what I'm looking for and what I'm reaching for is to, have hotlines and to have a place that's safe for victims and survivors to come forward and to be safe. To do educational tours where, speaking tours where I would go and speak in places that would raise awareness and educate, and books. Like literally, I wanted to go to be global. I want to change things. I want to make it safer for my children and their children. And so, I've always heard it said that it takes one person to stand up and make that difference. And I'm more than willing to be that one person, to lay it all out on the line and to be in the crosshairs, so to speak, for all the other victims and survivors out there. That way.
Yeah, and we know the money's out there. We know that people have good hearts and they want to donate to this kind of thing. Because look at what happened with Corey Feldman when he came out with his story. He raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then there's all kinds of stuff around that. It wasn't even this kind of story. Where here we have a legitimate case here. Nathan Forrest Winters, this is a 100% legitimate case. And I would encourage people to go back and listen to the first 2-hour interview where we really go into detail of this entire story. And I think you'll be shocked and motivated to go to the GoFundMe, Taking Action, Breaking Silence, and really get this, because this is a sincere guy who's a stable guy too, by the way. We had a very long discussion last time. There's a very grounded gentleman here, Nathan Forrest Winters, a real survivor to all this. But we are out of time. What do you want to leave us with? We got like 2 minutes. How can people find you? That kind of stuff.
Again, it's... all the contact information can be found on the website. That should lead to the GoFundMe as well. We're looking for any kind of contribution in the sense of, if someone has a connection that might help us get into, a film convention, or that knows an attorney that wants to donate time, to this cause. It's basically anything that anyone wants to contribute. It should be an open door in that sense, that if you have a positive contribution to make, then feel free. Just because it may not necessarily be money doesn't mean that that's not going to be a contribution. I want people to know that although we do need money, because we're both, pretty broke, Connor and I, and everybody on my team right now, but that's not the motivation. It's not money. the money is just so we can continue to do this job, and that's really what I want people to know, is that this it's an honor, in my opinion. It's a duty to protect the children, to protect and to give a platform for people to use their voice and to speak out and to band together and to, find a solution for this.
Yeah, I know there's hundreds of thousands of people out there that not just listen to the show, but you see them on the internet. They're getting behind all these causes. This is something that everyone with a good heart wants to support. But you got to be so careful of who to get behind. And I really want to tell you, Nathan Forrest Winters is the real deal. And I would have no concern endorsing him and putting him forward to you. You have my total endorsement there, Nathan. And if you listen to the first show, the first 2-hour show where we really go into details on all this, he's a very sincere guy who's very well grounded now in his adult life and is a good spokesperson. Be at the head of this kind of thing. He lived through it. He's stable, and he can speak from the heart, and he's a stable guy. So Nathan, thank you so much. Okay. And again, if anything ever comes up where you need to come on the air, just give me a call. We'll put you right on the air.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I want to tell the audience too, me and Nathan, I screwed up the scheduled time for this. He was very kind to move a schedule around to me and get this on the air. So thank you so much again, Nathan.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Good night. Okay, they got Nathan Forrest Winters, and like I said, I endorse this guy 100%. GoFundMe, Taking Action, Breaking Silence. That's the GoFundMe. The website is nathanforrestwinters.com. We're going to be talking to Connor Frazier. I'm going to be interviewing him for an hour as well. So that's why we didn't get into the babysitter of the film too much, because I'll talk to Connor about that and have a whole clean slate with Connor. So we'll be getting into that later on another show. So thank you so much, Nathan Forrest Winters. If you like the show and you like the Opperman Report, check out our member section at oppermanreport.com. where we have our section with exclusive interviews and exclusive content. You go there, become a member. It helps support the show, and it helps keep the show on the air and all that kind of great stuff. So thank you so much. emailrevealer.com. People ask me all the time, hey, Ed, are you still a private investigator? I sure am. Go to emailrevealer.com. We handle adoption investigations, infidelity investigations, where you give us your spouse's email address. We trace it back to online dating websites, catch them cheating online. Email tracing, locate or identify somebody from as little as an anonymous email address. Someone owe you money? Back child support? We can find that deadbeat. Locate his hidden assets. Locate his hidden bank accounts. Find his current place of employment, and even assist you in obtaining a judgment and recover that judgment for you. Emailrevealer.com. Digital forensics, computer forensics, cell phone forensics, recover deleted text messages. Create a report that you can use in court. Emailrevealer.com. 800-572-9762. OppermanReport.com. Hey, do you like what you're hearing? Do you like the work that you see us doing here at Opperman Report? You can support that work by becoming a member at OppermanReport.com. And as you have access to over 200 exclusive shows and interviews that you can't find on YouTube or Spreaker or iHeart or iTunes or KYAH. You can't find them anywhere else online, exclusive to our member sections, to our members. Also, too, there's images, videos, documents, court docs, a lot of content there at OppermanReport.com. And it's the memberships that support the Opperman Report and allow us to play these shows for free on Friday nights and Saturday nights on all the stations you hear us on. You can also make a donation at OppermanReport.com. If you want to support the show and become a member, I can give you a discount. I'll give you 13 months for $65 if you email me directly at OppermanReport@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can hear your ad played here on the Opperman Report, reach hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people on a daily basis because the show is repeated every day all over the world. Contact me at OppermanReport@gmail.com and I'll give you a good deal on advertising rates.